As members of the cadet instructors cadre, we have an obligation to make sure that we and our cadets act in a responsible manner and are good stewards towards the environment. As examples of good citizens, we must look after the environment which sustains us. Legislation is in place to ensure that Canadians act responsibly towards the environment. Violations of this legislation have already caused the department and individual members to be charged. To provide direction on the environment for cadet activities, CATO 1108 Environmental Protection and Stewardship has been developed. CATO 1108 prescribes environmental policy for the CCO. It establishes procedures which implement federal environmental legislation. It informs the Canadian cadet organizations and cadet instructors cadre of their responsibility. It ensures that there are designated environmental personnel at each level. What is meant exactly by the environment? It means all interacting natural systems, including air, land, water, the atmosphere, and everything within them. Everything. CATO 1108 directs us all to act with due diligence. Due diligence involves taking all precautions to protect the environment that a reasonable person would take in the same circumstance. Due diligence is sometimes the only defense against violations of environmental legislation. We are expected to act as stewards of the environment and apply due diligence to the task. Proper planning of our activities will help us achieve this.
Okay, so for the first night, we'll go into this area and build shelters. As you can see, we're close to a stream, a lake, and some marshy ground, okay?
Sure. So what things do we have to watch out for, environmentally speaking?
The CATO on environmental stewardship should have a checklist and guidance.
Yeah, here it is. Okay. Part A, assessment requirement. What does that mean?
This is the part of the checklist that tells us we're likely to need an environmental assessment.
That would mean that we have to contact the regional environmental officer for help, right?
Right. If you'll call the landowner, we'll look over the rest of the questions.
Okay, according to the checklist, we're not doing anything which would trigger an environmental assessment. On to Part B, risks.
Well, this part makes us think of possible places where we might harm the environment.
Environmental damage takes many forms, including alteration of the terrain or contamination of the water, soil, or air. Watercourses attract abundant wildlife. Unpolluted water is essential to the healthy growth of flora and fauna, so the purity of our rivers, lakes, and groundwaters must be protected. Special care should be taken when near rivers so as to protect the vegetation, riverbanks, and fish habitat. By ensuring that we operate vessels in sufficiently deep water, not only do we protect the bottom of the vessels, but we also protect the aquatic life at the bottom of the river or lake. Bilge water can contain pollutants, such as oil, so it should be pumped into containers instead of overboard. Make sure that POL is stored appropriately so we avoid harmful spillage. Ensure that there are proper receptacles for garbage and other wastes.
Okay, now that we know our main risk areas, what's next?
Part C, planning.
This will help us plan ahead and take all the necessary precautions.
There are a number of precautions we can take, such as putting drip pans under vehicles and any materials which hold hazardous materials. Have a special spill kit on hand for the hazardous materials, such as POL. These kits can be obtained from the same place as the hazardous material. CATO 1108 explains the essentials of a spill kit. Brief your personnel on the area you will be in and any environmentally sensitive or limited areas. As well, brief them on the procedures to follow if there is a spill, which are outlined in CATO 1108. Always remember, safety comes first. By following the procedures laid out in CATO 1108, we will be well on our way to being duly diligent. Remember, there is no substitute for common sense.
So, is that it?
Well, that's it for the checklist.
Can you think of anything else we should consider?
Well, we'll have to be careful during the exercise. React quickly to any incidents which might happen, then make sure we report them.
Now, if we could only count on the weather.
Okay, let's turn to the schedule. There's a couple of things I'd like to check here.
In this day and age, environmental protection is an important part of our supervisory duties. As CIC officers, we are dedicated to teaching the attributes of good leadership and citizenship, of which environmental stewardship is a part. Environmental stewardship is not so much a matter of law as it is a matter of survival. We must be sure to plan thoroughly all our activities.
Well, I think we're done.
Well, there's no substitute for good planning.
Environmentally speaking, we've got this nailed.